Welcome back to Spotlight, where we feature the University of Central Arkansas's College of Fine Arts and Communication. I'm Donna Lampkin-Stevens. Today we're at the Baum Gallery of Fine Art for the senior show. It covers BA and BFA students graduating in May, and there's all kinds of wonderful art here to come out and explore. Exhibiting are Marley Allgood of Cabot, Kate Bramante of Conway, Lindsay Colston of Nashville, Madison Spencer of Maumelle, Sylvia Harden of Jonesboro, Brandon Cranford of Bryant, and Dalton Hartwick of Valonia. They are getting their BFA. And Bachelor of Arts students exhibiting are Logan Melton of Walnut Ridge, Matthew Gentry of Little Rock, Merritt Haddock of McGee, Jordan Richard of Conway, Anna Shannon of Maumelle, Terry Atkinson of Redondo Beach, California, Houston Castle of St. Louis, Micah Goshen of Little Rock, Patrick Haynes of North Little Rock, Mia Killian of Quitman, Teal Ray of Conway, Madeline Strickland of Fort Smith, and Paige Yutsis of San Diego. There is something here for everyone. The Baum Gallery is free to come and visit, and I would encourage anybody in the Conway area to come out and take a look at this fabulous art, which we're going to talk about when we come back. I'm joined now by my friend Dr. Jeff Young, who's the chair of the Department of Art at UCA. And Jeff, you've done this several times, and this show seems more eclectic than many in the past.
I think this is one of our larger shows that we've had in the last several years. Usually in the spring there'll be about 15 to 16 students that'll be exhibiting, but this time I think we have 21 students exhibiting.
Wow.
Yes. And some of those students are making very large work that takes up more space. And some of the work is a little bit more unusual maybe than before in the past. There was a wider range of things being exhibited for this senior show.
Is there a reason why, or just kind of,
No, I think it has to do, there's always this balance between the students and the work they're making and the faculty, and as the faculty try to push the students. But really what we hope is that by the time the students are exhibiting in the senior show, the work is more their own than the faculty's. And I think that's the case here is, faculty will continue to push students to explore in areas, but the result here is the work of the students and what their ideas were to start with and how their ideas evolved over the time they were making the work.
Let's talk a little bit about the process. I mean, at what point do these students start working toward this? And tell me about the committee that they work with.
Well, it's different. We have two different degree programs, and so that makes a difference with the process the students go through. So students who are working on a Bachelor of Arts degree with a fine art emphasis or an art education emphasis, what happens there is that they meet with a panel of faculty earlier the semester that the show happens.
Just this semester?
Just this semester. Okay. So they met about 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
And what they do is they bring work from their junior and senior classes, work that they think is strong and work that they think represents them as the artist they've become. And then they meet with the faculty and they basically select the work in concert with the faculty.
Now, is this the entire faculty or are there individual
No,
committees?
it's usually a panel of 3 faculty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
do the students choose those?
No, the students don't.
Okay.
The department chooses the panel. And the students then come to that meeting and show their work and explain which pieces they think should be part of the senior show. And then the faculty will either agree or disagree with that. Sometimes what we hope is that it's a perfect agreement, that what the student thinks is the strongest work is actually what the faculty also believe. Yeah. But sometimes students will think something is stronger and they'll make a case that the faculty say, okay, we understand what you're saying, and so this can be part of the senior show. Or sometimes faculty will pick something that the student doesn't think is the strongest work, but the faculty think it's a very strong piece and should be part of the senior show. Yeah.
And so that was for the BA?
So that's for the BA. For the Bachelor of Fine Arts students, we have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Studio Art with emphases in different areas. And so for those students, they actually write a proposal a year in advance. And when they write the proposal, they say, here's the body of work I want to create for my senior show. And if that gets approved, then they work the next year, usually a fall and a spring, but it can be a spring and a fall. They'll work the next year to make work then for their senior show.
So all of this was created just for this show, the BFA work.
The BFA work,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
The work that's, for the BFA students, the work that's here is work that was proposed. And then in that proposal, it obviously changes sometimes too over the year. And those students meet with a panel, they meet with all of the BFA studio faculty, which is about 8 or 9 faculty members, and they meet with them about 6 times during that year prior to the opening of the show.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's very, as chair, do you have do you sit on any of these committees? Or?
I will sometimes sit on the BA panel, right.
Okay. And what is it like for the faculty side of that? I would think that's kind of many times it's very rewarding to see the work that they've done.
Yeah, I think so. Especially, for me, since I'm chair, I don't get a chance to see the student work as much. And so when I participate on a BA panel, then a lot of times it's very surprising to see the work that students have developed in their last year and a half. So
now, Jeff, did you do this as an undergraduate at where, North Texas?
Actually, well, my undergraduate was at Texas Tech University.
Tech, okay.
And one of the reasons that when I interviewed here 22 years ago, one of the things I liked about it was that they required their art education students to be part of this process.
And Texas Tech did not.
When I was at Texas Tech, I was an art education student, and they did not have their art ed students participate in a senior show. So,
and you see that this makes a big difference.
I think it does, and I think it's important for art education students. At Texas Tech, even though we weren't required to, 2 other art ed students and I put together a senior show and requested time in the gallery to be able to exhibit. We did.
Great.
Yeah.
What did you do? What was your work?
That's been so long ago, I can't even remember now. So,
now, Jeff, you're stepping down as chair.
That's right.
July 1st.
That's
after
right.
how many years?
After 15 years.
15 years as chair. You've earned your time off. So, looking back over your tenure, what are your accomplishments? How happy are you with what you've been able to do here, and how does it feel to leave?
Well, one is that I'll be coming back in the fall. While I'm stepping down as chair, I'll still be a full-time faculty member. So I'll be starting to teach classes full-time as opposed to a reduced teaching load that I have for the last 15 years. As far as things that I'm proud of, I mean, part of it is examples of the work that's in this show. I think that we have strong student work. Whenever I bring prospective students to tour campus and we come and look at the senior show or the student competitive, I think it's always great, and I can tell them, one of the things that they should see in a senior show is a variety of work. And that's what you see when you come, especially to this show. The work all looks different from each other. Paintings are done in different styles. Drawings are done in different styles. The photography is different. And so that shows that there's, that the students are being prompted by their faculty to explore different ideas and different techniques, and that makes it very exciting.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations and good luck on your stepping down. You'll still be around. We'll probably see you more.
You'll
be
teaching
more.
Around.
Okay,
That's
good.
Right. Yeah.
But we'll miss you on Spotlight. You've been great all these years.
Well, thank you very much.
We'll be back again in a moment.
What will you find at UCA?
The next generation of artists,
educators,
and communicators.
The College of Fine Arts and Communication offers 42 undergraduate and graduate programs of exceptional quality,
contributing to a deeper appreciation of the human experience.
But we also invest in your experience.
With broadcasts, conferences, exhibits, live performances,
publications, recitals, readings, and screenings.
We even offer a unique artist in residence program
featuring performances and master classes with accomplished visiting artists.
All of that experience pays off.
The school placement rates of our music teacher graduates with K-12 certification is close to 100%. We have many disciplines here, but they all share the same dedication to rigorous practice
and scholarly achievement,
which is why our graduates perform so well.
The College of Fine Arts and Communication at the University of Central Arkansas.
Go here and go anywhere.
Joining me now is my friend Brian Young, who is the director of the Baum Gallery of Fine Arts. So welcome back to Spotlight, Brian.
Thank you, Donna.
This is always a fun show because and I'm sure it's exciting for the Department of Art, faculty, everybody in the Department of Art. Just talk about the feeling when the senior show finally goes up and we're here, we're ready to enjoy everybody coming in and seeing it.
Well, to sum up in one word, I would say relief.
I bet.
So it's an exhibition where it's a bunch of moving parts.
Mm-hmm.
So
more than most of your
yes,
exhibitions?
Because the selection for the works for the Baum Gallery for this exhibition is a process. And so students will send images to me, and then I'll try and match up where the works go in relationship to each other, matching it with scale. Big works.
You're the one who does all that.
Right, right. And then I also try to make sure that we have a variety of the way that we show works. So for example, when you come in the opening gallery, whether people notice it or not, it's an introduction to not only just this exhibition, but also to the department. So we have on the main wall in the back is a work that combines sculpture and video. We have an installation piece that's part printmaking, part sculpture. We have a series of photographs, we have a print, and we have some sculpture. And it's all contemporary. So when you first walk in, it should feel like that the pieces relate to one another, but that also it's a cross-section of what's going on in UCA's art department. And so if people just come in and they just kind of seamlessly walk through, then maybe I've done my job. If it feels disjointed and the works are not cohesive, then perhaps we need to rethink it for the next year. But and then when you walk into the larger galleries, the space opens up, and then you end with a more of a intimate feel. And some of the works there have kind of a domestic quality that I think people will pick up on.
So what goes into besides scale and you know, things like that, what goes into, how long do you take to take these images and figure out what goes where?
It's kind of fluid, but it takes a process of maybe a couple days, and then things change once you bring the work in.
Oh yeah,
so
because you don't see anything until they just bring it here, right? After you've already assigned it.
Right, so I try to assign the artists their spaces, and then if they can't seem to accommodate it, then maybe we can make some adjustments, we can shift things, move things over. But we try to make sure that this space that we assign to them are the ones that they ultimately use. And I think this happened this semester. And we also try to make sure that people whose works are next to each other don't clash, so that they seem to have a relationship. So we don't want to have one work overpower somebody else's if one work is on a larger scale. So if things are more intimate, maybe we'll put them in a space closer to a corner or around on the backside of a wall, so that you kind of come upon them in a thoughtful way. That's what we try to do. And we try to have conversations so that if somebody has a work that is figurative, maybe another figurative work is nearby, or if one work is oriented with shapes. So we do it that way too.
This show seems, they're all great, but this one seems very, I don't know, I think I was thinking of the word eclectic more than usual in the recent years. Would you say that? Talk about the show overall.
So this is kind of interesting if you say eclectic. If you think of art exhibitions, you think typically of paintings, right? Large paintings, it could be something that's figurative, it could be something that's a narrative. Think of like The Last Supper. In this show, in these three galleries, we only have one traditional painting in terms of it being of a figure, of it not being abstracted. So this exhibition in some ways can put some notions of what a traditional art exhibition is. In its place, we see more things that are site-specific, that break down the barriers of what a different media is. So you'll talk to Kate Bramante, and her work is, was it installation? Is it printmaking? Is it, so it's hard to define. And so we're seeing more of that, not just at UCA, but in their communities in general, that people are pushing the boundaries about what it is to make work. And now there's still some other traditional pieces, but I think over time we're seeing that tradition is being supplanted by people using the new media at their disposal, whether it's computer-generated graphic design, whether it's video, whether it's higher resolution cameras, whether it's the ability to print larger images as printers get bigger. So as students have more available resources, they're kind of picking and choosing what they're going to use as their tools.
Wow. So have you worked with these students before they come to you, or is this your first experience with them?
It's both. Some students I've worked with before for the annual Student Art Competitive.
Okay.
Some students Their work has come across, I've seen it before, but I mean, almost without exception, every student only gets one BFA show.
Oh yeah.
So
this is the biggie.
This is the biggie. But even someone like Dalton, I've come across his work when he sells his ceramics to raise funds, or maybe I go to somebody's studio, or some of the students like Marley Allgood, she's been a work study student. So some students I know by work, by personality, a chance encounter, or from the annual student art competitive.
Great, great. So Brian, give us the hours, and everything's free. Talk about just kind of the who, what, where, when.
Okay, so the Baum Gallery's in McCaslin Hall. Our hours are Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., with extended hours on Thursday until 7 p.m. The show runs until April 26th. We do not have weekend hours.
Okay.
And it is free. It's open to the public. There is at least one guest parking spot that hopefully right next to Sheastel, which is right behind McCaslin. People can use that. There's also visitor parking that might cost a few quarters, but it's reasonable.
Speaking of cost, are any of these pieces for sale?
They are. Not all of them, but if somebody has an interest, they can just let me know and I'll get them directly in touch with the student.
Okay.
Like I know that Dalton has already sold 2 of his ceramics. So
already?
Well, one of them he doesn't know about it yet.
Oh, okay.
He'll find out today. He's going to get an email saying somebody wants to buy his work.
So when people do buy, they just come in and see it and then they think, I want to take that home with me. What goes into that? I confess I've never bought from an art exhibition. So what goes into that?
Basically, it almost always happens like this. Somebody will show an intense interest in a work of art, and then they'll think about it for a while, and they'll almost sheepishly ask me or somebody, is any of this work for sale? And we'll say, we'll find out. The running joke is that maybe the student promised it for their parents, right? They would give it to them.
Sure.
So we just put the student directly in contact. And there's this, I find the process humorous. Some artists want to sell their work because when they graduate, they can't envision where they're going to store all of their work.
That's one thing that really goes into it,
right.
Because what do you do with this stuff if you don't sell it?
Right. So and as you're making your life after you graduate, sometimes the income sounds pretty good. And there's also the idea that reinforces that somebody thinks what they're doing is good. So if they can start the process of giving work away, get used to that, that emotional process that, if you're going to be an artist, part of that process is divesting yourself of certain work and then receiving payment in return, which is different than, let's say, providing a service for somebody like graphic design, which doesn't require you to shed anything.
I hadn't thought of this psychological part.
Right.
But do they get that in classes?
They do. I mean, sometimes it's informal, but sometimes it's conversations with me or conversations with their faculty, and even things like how does an artist come to price their own work? Yeah. So there's
and they do price their own.
They do price their own. Yeah.
Typically, can you give a general? For any of these pieces, is there a range or? The
range could be, let's say, not to pick on Dalton again, but some of his smaller ceramic pieces might start at $25, and then I don't know what Marley, who has the large complex painting on the back wall of the main gallery, but I imagine that would be considerably higher than $25. But it might go into a few hundred or so.
Okay.
And we caution artists, informally speaking, not to price their work too high, because once you do that, then it's kind of expected that that's where your market starts. And if it's too high and you start lowering your prices, that can be tough too. So, but again, some artists want to move the work out, get the revenue, and then begin that process.
A whole different thing that we hadn't talked about before. So yeah. Interesting. Well, Brian, thanks a bunch, and congratulations on another great show, and we'll do it again next year.
Thanks for your attention and your interest.
Sure.
I love it.
We'll be back again in a moment to talk with Kate Bramante about her installation piece, and it's fabulous.
Here I am back at UCA. This is where I got my start. Acting in plays, studying literature, writing scripts. Campus has grown so much in the last few years, and the technology is incredible. UCA is where I learned the craft of storytelling and got ready for a career in New York and LA. That's how I got here. Go here and go anywhere. Go UCA.
I'm back now with Kate Bramante, who is exhibiting in the BFA show. So Kate, welcome to Spotlight.
Oh, thank you.
First, let's talk about you. Where are you from, and how'd you wind up at UCA?
Well, I grew up in Connecticut, and then I lived really all over the world. I lived in Boston, where I went to school, and then my husband was in the Foreign Service, so we lived in Greece and Trinidad and Brazil.
Oh, wow.
And then I lived in Washington for a number of years. And there's a whole series of events that happened in my life that I very unexpectedly ended up in Conway. And I'm obviously a non-traditional student. I came back to school. When I got here, I said, what am I going to do here? And then I realized that I read somewhere that when you're 60, you can go to school for free at Arkansas State Schools. So I said, well, this is great. So I came over here, talked to Dr. Young, and started in this program here, which has been absolutely a wonderful experience.
What a great story.
Yeah, yeah.
So you went to school in Boston. Where did you go to school, and what did you study?
I went to Boston University, and I studied Latin American Studies. But another part of my background is my mom is an artist and an art teacher.
So you'd been around it
So
forever.
I'd been around it my whole life. And when I was working, when I could, I would take a class in the evenings or on the weekends, but didn't really spend that much time. So it's always something I kind of
It was
wanted.
a hobby.
It was kind of like an interest I had, and I was always exposed to art my whole life through my mom. And interestingly enough, my daughter is now also an art teacher.
Oh, really?
So it's,
okay.
yeah.
So you came to UCA for free, good for you, and you wanted. I mean, did you know you wanted to study art? How did that
I knew I
come
wanted
about?
to study art because it was something I'd never really had time to do. So I just started taking classes, and such a fantastic program. The
Were you
teachers,
enrolled in the program officially? Or were you just taking a class here
initially
and
I
there?
was a non-degree seeking student. Then I said, well, I might as well get a degree here. And I knew that if I was in a degree program, I would also work harder.
Sure.
So I decided to do the BFA as opposed to the BA. So I switched to degree student and went through the program.
So when did you start?
I started in the fall of 2013.
Okay. And so how have you found the program? I gather that it's been one of the highlights of your life.
It's been really a really unexpected, terrific surprise at this stage in my life.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So what do you intend to do when you're about to graduate?
I'm
What are you
about to
gonna do?
graduate. I'll probably be in Conway at least for a while, and I can still take courses, and there are other courses I'd like to take at the university. Like I'd love to take a linguistics class or some history classes, and even some more art classes that I hadn't had time for. Like I have never taken photography, some things that I haven't done too much of.
So what was your emphasis when you
My
decided on the
emphasis
BFA?
was printmaking.
Okay.
Was printmaking, and a lot of the sort of raw materials for this work started as printmaking.
So talk about, this is Wellfleet Dunes,
Right.
and tell me about, so you had to meet with the faculty, as I understand
Right.
it, and they talk. What was your idea coming in? Your proposal?
Well, my initial idea, I mean, I had no idea this is where I was going to end up, but my
Which is not unusual.
No, and it was sort of making me a little nervous throughout the whole process because it took me a long time to get to this stage. But then I realized when I was looking back at what I had originally proposed that my original idea had not changed all that much. I mean, what sort of was always going through my mind, because my life has been so sort of scattered, and there are very important people to me and places to me literally all over the country. Like my daughter lives in San Diego, my parents are on the East Coast, and I'm always trying to put all these pieces together in something that makes some kind of sense. But I kind of like the movement and the change, but I also have a need for some stability. So in the very, very end, this is what this sort of turned out to be in a very surprising way. And then what really surprised me is it turned out to be visually very much like this place on Cape Cod, which is so important to me.
Well, you said in your artist statement that my work carried me on a journey that led me home.
Yes,
I love that.
Yes, and that's really how I felt. I remember one day I was doing some of these kinds of installations in my studio, and I went, oh, that looks just like the dunes in Wellfleet. And then I went and looked at some of the photos I had in my computer, and it was like, that's exactly what it was. And then I would begin to like smell the sea air and hear the waves and feel the wind, because it was such an important place. I mean, I've been going there for 60 years, and I have all kinds of memories about the place. Specifically in the dunes, my sister and some friends of ours, we had our snake hospital. And we had little pieces of seaweed that were the snakes, and we built them a little house, and we fed them, and we took them swimming in the ocean. So it just really, really amazed me that this sort of was in me, and it came out through my process of
because
working.
you weren't thinking about that at all at the beginning.
No,
That's fascinating.
And then during the whole practicum thing, I was always having trouble articulating what my work was about because I didn't really, in a way, know. And Professor Laws kept saying to me, your content will come out of your process. And I'm thinking, well, I sure hope so, because I have to think of something to say besides this is just stuff that I make. And Professor Rosbert was my primary advisor, and I've been working with her really for a number of years. So the work that is in my practicum really didn't start with my practicum. It's just a continuation of what I'd been doing before, mostly with her in classes with her.
So exactly, I mean, there are hundreds of pieces.
Yes.
What are they?
For example, this is a monoprint. And what I did is, and that's what a lot of these pieces are, I ink up, this is raffia, this has got resin on it, but I ink up raffia and I put it on a piece of paper and I print it. And I get a sort of a square print, and then I start cutting out pieces of it. Don't ask me why, I just kind of like it. And the backs I have painted, and when I cut them out of the square piece of paper, I get these kinds of shapes, these kind of
twirls,
twirls, and I save everything that I make. And I've saved all these little pieces, and I make collages out of them, which are not in this show, but these are the little pieces that are left. And I save them all, and I put them all in bags, sort of by color. And then someday I'll figure out how to, and I have made a number of smaller collages with pieces like this. And then these bigger pieces underneath, when I had some of these pieces, because I was working on such a large scale, I realized I needed some larger scale things. And I worked with Professor Ogar, who helped me scan these pieces, and then he's got a printer where you can print on a much larger format. So some of these pieces underneath are like 6 or 7 feet long and about 4 feet wide.
And you told me that this only was created here. I mean, because you brought the pieces, and then you had done sort of some things before.
Right.
But, so when did you do this? How far in advance of the show?
We had about 5 days to work on the installation. And I had done it a number of times. And once, and at first I painted the wall a sort of a slightly different color. And then I did the big pieces underneath. And then it doesn't take that much time. It's like I said, you can't really make a mistake. And I just started putting it together, and it sort of grows.
It's fascinating.
Oh, yeah, it just kind of grows. That's the way I've always worked, is sort of like, I don't really know exactly where I'm going, but I know the things that I like. So I make lots of them, and then I just have to trust myself that I'll figure out what to do with them. And
then you said that this will get you to graduation, but afterward you have other. I mean, you can continue with this, right?
Yeah, I'd like to. I'm going to have to find a space to rent to work in, because it's been wonderful. You know, when you're doing your BFA practicum, you get a studio space here, which has been wonderful. But I obviously don't have space like this in my apartment. So I'll find a place where I can work. So like I said, I would like to continue to build these things out even more, and then have the surface of it be a shape, which I think would be really cool, or have a sort of some kind of wire armature structure and sort of hang them down as a hanging sculpture. So there's a couple of things I'd like to do. And I always, when I'm sort of overwhelmed by the big things, I just go back and make little collages out of my little pieces.
So do you think you'll try to exhibit? I mean,
I'm going to definitely try to exhibit, yeah. And, you know, obviously it's going to be hard to find a place that would take something like this, but I can install this in any shape or form, really. Right. So it's really
a very versatile piece.
It's kind of site-specific in that way.
Well, Kate, I love it, and thank you for the story behind it. The story behind it's even better than the art, I think. I think it's wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Well, congratulations on graduation.
Okay, thank you very much.
Come out and see this and all the other great work at the Baum Gallery, the BFA Senior Show. You won't want to miss it.
Here I am back at UCA. This is where I got my start. Acting in plays, studying literature, writing scripts. Campus has grown so much in the last few years, and the technology is incredible. UCA is where I learned the craft of storytelling and got ready for a career in New York and LA. That's how I got here. Go here and go anywhere. Go UCA.